Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. Influential Entrepreneurs is sponsored by Marketing Huddle, where we build an authority positioning portfolio for entrepreneurs that sells for you so that you don't have to. This unique approach to give credibility and trust to get clients using podcast and TV interviews and guaranteed press coverage. For more information, go to MikeSaunders360.com. Today we have with us Christian Brindle, who's the founder and CEO of Everything Senior Insurance. Christian, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm excited to be here and big fan of your show.
Hey, thank you. And, I always love to look at someone's name of a business or website and kind of go, there's a story there. And I love when I hear Everything Senior Insurance. It's kind of like, the one-stop shop for everything you need to know about senior insurance. So I'm excited to learn what you do and how you do it and why you do it. But get us started first with a little bit of your story and background and how did you get into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like a lot of people that find the insurance space, this is my 11th year. So I started in 2024. I had a parent that was in the business. So my dad was actually in the business for about 25 years before I ever started. He had a nice little agency, good bit of clients, one, office, part-time employee, assistant, if you will. And so I kind of came in that way and learned from him at the beginning. And, I ended up starting my own agency, which it started out being named after me. It's kind of like, we were branding me at that time, and it was called Christian Brindle Insurance Services. And then years back, actually, the first piece of content creation that we actually started doing is we did a Medicare-focused podcast for consumers. That was a lead gen tactic that worked extremely well. To this day, it's still the number one Medicare-specific informational podcast on the internet. Like if you Google it, it'll always come up like one, if not two.
Neat.
And it was called the Everything Medicare Podcast. And so we were looking over the past couple of years to kind of rebrand the name of the agency because as we've grown, we have, as a combined organization, we make up 5 insurance-based companies, but we have about 300 employees now, and there's so much more to the company than just me, and so we wanted to rebrand it, and so it just kind of made sense based on the success of that podcast, and a lot of people knew us on the Medicare side based on that podcast, so we went with the Everything name, kind of playing on the Everything Medicare Podcast name. We would have done Everything Medicare, but Medicare has a lot of strict rules about having Medicare in your name, so we had to come up with a workaround there.
But senior insurance, that targets who you're going to serve. And also, there are many other types of things other than Medicare. There is the dental insurance. There's medical insurance. There's all kinds of things, healthcare that you would need to talk about. So I love that choice of name. So tell us a little bit about when you're talking to someone that goes, senior insurance, tell me more. Where do you start? Because like I just mentioned, there's dental insurance, there's healthcare, there's all kinds of things. Where's the first place that you are starting to help educate your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, everything kind of started and ended with Medicare, although we did other things outside of Medicare. But Medicare is what I would call our bread and butter. But surrounding Medicare, kind of like some of the things you hit on there, dental insurance, we do a lot of dental insurance, we do life insurance. So we play primarily in the health and life world for the most part. But there's so many different types of products that come associated with that, right? So Medicare has a lot of holes and gaps for consumers. And so, whether it be dental insurance, whether it be cancer insurance, whether it be home health care insurance, long-term care, short-term care, anything like that, there's a lot of products that end up kind of, connecting to the tree, if you will, that is, the Medicare world and everything like that. And life insurance even can connect to it in a lot of ways as well. They kind of go together like peanut butter and jelly. And so, if I was ever talking to, let's say, a new agent and they'd want to know, how do I break into this or something like that? the best way, in my opinion, is to, pick a lane, go really deep in that lane, and then from there start adding applicable products that make sense from there, that relate. I feel like it's, especially when you're new, a lot of times for a lot of agents, some people do it really well, but it's tricky to try to be doing health, life, investment products, securities, property and casualty, and they're trying to be like a one-stop shop for everything.
Yeah.
And that gets a little challenging.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, it's like just a general principle in business. What's the problem? What's the pain point? How do you solve it?
Yes.
And if you can solve it in a logical, ethical, efficient way, boy, now when you're talking to people, having them explain to you, okay, now how does it feel to have this problem, whatever that is? Now all of a sudden you're explaining your solutions, and then you're listening, because what you just said about all the other types of needs too, you're solving the first problem. You're solving that cut on their arm, so to speak. But then you're noticing that, oh, you know what? It looks like it's starting to get a little infected. Why don't we go ahead and add this here? So when you're talking to people about, let's say you started off with Medicare, well, maybe they started also mentioning something else in their financial world that is a concern. And then that could be an education point from there.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, what a lot of people make mistakes on in business is they go wide instead of going vertical. They try to grow wide instead of vertical. And I feel like anytime you're adding something new to your business, or you're adding another layer to your business, or you're adding like another offering to your business, it just makes it exponentially easier for you if it relates, and intimately relates in a lot of cases, to your primary source of revenue that your business is doing. If they connect to each other, if they relate, if they maybe even in a sense help each other grow in some capacities. And so, I think that is such a good solution in business in general, opposed to, because a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs, they take a little while to learn that, and they kind of end up all over the place, and ultimately it hurts them. It ends up being what's the old saying, he who catches two rabbits catches neither, right? It kind of ends up being that type of situation.
Well, and it reminds me too, have you ever read the book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller?
I have not, but I have heard the name before. I've heard it's a great book.
Excellent book. I'd highly recommend it. But in there, he makes an interesting statement. When you confuse, you lose.
That's a good one.
I mean, and you can see, when you sit down with someone for the first time, you can see 9 different things that they need, and you could just go to town and without taking a breath, just tell them all the solutions, all 9 things, and they're like, you lost me at the first sentence. So I think that's a really good point that you're bringing up, is kind of keep it simple, fix that first problem, see what else is out there. So when you're working with other agents, you've got, what did you say, 300 employees? So how many of those are agents that are working with serving clients?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we have a lot of different employees that do a lot of different things, but when it comes to just agents, it's probably less than 10 of those employees that are actually just agents. If we're talking, independent contractors, we have what in the insurance world, what they call contracted agents. That basically that means is they're insurance contracts with the various carriers they sell plans for. They're tied to us. We're almost like, in a sense, they're upline. Insurance is very MLM-y in that way. Yeah. And so we have about 600 of those contracted agents across the country that are separate. They're not employees of ours, but they're partnered with us, and we provide them with support, guidance, resources, and just additional help to kind of helping them grow their business. But yeah, I mean, agents in that capacity, we have about 600, but employed agents, we probably have less than 10.
And that whole team, like the independent contractors, that's wonderful. They're looking to you for guidance, for support to help them grow. And you are looking to them to bring in revenue because there's a revenue share. That's wonderful. What are the types of resources and tools and growth guidance that you're able to give to an independent contractor if someone were to want to come aboard your team?
Yeah. So I feel like our responsibility to them, there's really 3 basic principles I think that make up what we should be doing for them. I think the first one is training and guidance. So I feel like in our world, I think in a lot of businesses you see this, but in our world in particular, everybody says that they provide training, but not all training is created equal.
Yeah.
And so the training that we're providing is, very industry specific resources, but at the same time also very, practical business strategies and principles like, how to hire people, how to manage people, how to train people, how to build standard operating procedures, how to, see certain things in people, how to interview with people, how to handle a situation when an employee isn't, doing their job the way they're supposed to do, right? Structuring your business, marketing, advertising, promoting your business, content creation, free versus organic, and versus paid marketing and those types of things. So like we provide a lot of training about like A to Z, how you can build an actual insurance business. My business partner calls it a business in a box, our training.
Yeah.
Because
Neat.
we tried to leave no stone uncovered. And so I feel like that's a big piece of it. The other things are transparency, being available, when someone needs help with something, responding to emails in a timely manner, answering questions, just being very transparent about how things work, when, what we can do for them, everything like that. And I feel like the third thing is, technology tools. So we have a CRM that we provide to our agents for free that's proprietary. It's something we do internally, amongst other tools as well that help them with quoting, enrollments, and other things like that, recording their phone calls, everything like that. So I feel like those are the three things that really make up like the principles of what we provide to those agents.
And also, you probably have learned a thing or two over the years, and there's a internal community that you guys are building and you are leading, where if someone has a question or a concern, one of your agents to go, oh, hey, I've got this client who, how can I solve this? And then internally you guys are coming together to go, oh, I had that happen last month. Here's what we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I almost feel like a lot of people that are in my world that kind of do a similar thing to us that train agents, a lot of times they've never been agents, or they don't run an agency currently. And if they were, a lot of times it might have been 20, 30, 40 years ago, And so I feel like in our organization, like we have multiple sides of our business, but, we have an internal agency that's rocking and rolling every day, that's bringing on new clients every day, that's, retaining our clients, that's putting together creative solutions for problems every day, that's marketing and trying to bring more business in the door. And so like we're in the game, is the way that I look at it. Like we're actively on the front lines every day in that way. And so I feel like our training comes from the perspective of this is what we're doing now that works. This is what we've done that hasn't worked. And it's a very modern and current approach to what they should be doing to grow their business.
Yeah. And what you mentioned about someone that might have had some experience 20, 30 years ago reminded me of a statement that I heard years and years ago. It just really resonated. Like, do you have 10 years of experience, or do you have 1 year of experience 10 times over? Meaning that person isn't growing, isn't learning, isn't staying cutting edge. And I know from the way you're talking that you stay current in the industry, current in marketing techniques, current in technology and tools. And so you're able to pass those along to your whole organization to go, hey guys, just discovered this. This is working great for us. Give this a try because.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely our focus, right? Like we want to provide them with real solutions to challenges they might be having in their business. And, I mean, this, Mike, and when you're running a business, there are a lot of different, elements that determine if you're going to be successful or not. There's your organization and your efficiency when doing things. There's, how clearly do you communicate internally as a company? How clear are expectations made to all of the company about how things should be done and situations should be handled? There's of course, are you keeping up with the latest technology trends? Are you keeping up with the newest and latest, greatest tools that can kind of help you out in your business? Whether it be AI, whether it be automation tools, whether it be whatever it might be. And of course, are you marketing and continuously innovating your marketing? Because marketing is never finished.
Yes.
And trends change, what's working changes, algorithms change, people change, society changes. And I think all of those things just constantly need to be, um, worked on and revamped. And that's something that for us, we feel like the agents need that information passed down on a continuous basis so
Yep.
they know what's working right now.
100%. Hey, so looking back at some of the lessons you learned, might maybe even have been from mistakes, but you learned it and now you've polished that up. What are some of the things that you wish you knew back when you started that you learned the hard way recently?
Oh, that's a great question. I love it. The things that there's a couple things that come to my mind, here in that question. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is, early on in my career, I feel like, and probably like a lot of business owners, felt like that my efforts alone and my hard work and my grind could push me over the edge and push my company over the edge. And I didn't always want to spend money or invest into my business. I was always trying to hang on to every little penny I could in terms of investing into my business. I didn't want to hire people. I didn't want to, get systems to help me be more organized. I just wanted to outwork everybody, and that would be good enough. And, for a while it helps get the business off the ground. But at some point, it gets to a place where your business isn't growing nearly to what its potential could be on what it could be growing to if you'd kind of get out of your own way, right? Like, we is always better than me. And, even a team that can do 60 to 70% as good of a job as you can do on your own, if there's enough people, they can still outperform you, even if you're going 100 miles an hour. And so I think a big one for me was investing into my business and understanding that when you spend money on your business, whether it be marketing yourself, whether it be hiring employees, whether it be investing in new technology, new systems to help your business run more efficiently and operate better, it's not an expense. And I think in the early days, I looked at it as a cost and as an expense, but it should be looked at as an investment.
Yeah.
And so that was a big one for me. Another one I think was understanding the value of my own time. This was something that took me years to really understand and truly understand it. People sometimes say they understand it, but then like they're importing data or something into their business, CRM, or they're doing all these little manual menial tasks themselves. They're answering their own phone for customers and things like that. And at the beginning, you might have to do that. You might not have a choice. But at some point, like, I'll talk to business owners, and I'm sure you do too, like they've been in business for 20 years and they're still answering their own phone. They don't. And so there's a reason why they never grow past that, because, they just don't understand. It's not that the work is beneath them. That's not what I'm saying. But it's that there's other people they could bring into the business that could do just as good of a job at that, if not better. And there's things that they could be putting their time in that only they are uniquely qualified to do that could propel the business to grow exponentially faster than doing things the way they were doing it. So I think those were the two big things for me, was being willing to spend money on my business, and understanding the value of my time, and that, me jumping in and physically doing something that I shouldn't be doing, it might feel like in the moment that I'm helping the company, but I'm really hurting it.
Because you think, it'll just take me 3 or 4 minutes. I can do this. I know how to do it. And it'll take me more time to explain it to someone else to do it. And then I'd always wonder if they did it right. But in reality, that whole multitasking conundrum, if you pop off and do these tiny little things, you are so disjunct, really. And so I think, Pareto's principle comes into there. What is the 20% of things that you must be doing yourself to give 80% of the return of investment? And maybe it takes documenting, write down every hour, what you did the previous hour, do that for the next 2 weeks, and then look at it and go, what are the tasks that one of your admin people could have done at $20 an hour versus you at your hourly rate of whatever. And I think that becomes an aha moment. I think that is really huge that you bring up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think another important, piece to it is, if you don't allow your employees to try to do something and potentially fail at it, then you're not allowing them to grow. And long term, they're not going to be as helpful or useful for your business as they could be if you gave them the opportunity to learn and to prove themselves to you. It kind of handicaps them in a way. Like I was having a conversation recently, and one thing I had never really thought about before, but that came up in this conversation is, they might never take their job that seriously because they know you're always right behind them as like a safety blanket, like a net, if you will, to catch their mistakes. There's no real consequence of them not following through on something. But if, let's say, you let the thing fall, whatever it is, and you don't catch it, it might hurt. It might hurt your company a little bit. Yeah. It might piss off a customer. And that's never good, right? But long term, they will learn through experience. The best lessons that a lot of us learn are by pain.
Or through pain. I was literally going to say, Tony Robbins teaches we're more motivated to avoid pain than to gain pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. It's like in insurance, right? When you're learning insurance sales as a new agent, you can learn something, what I call book knowledge, till you're blue in the face. But until you go out into the field and you make a mistake on an application and it costs you a client and you take that punch in the face, that you will remember that forever. Yeah. And you won't remember the book knowledge for as much. So those experiences, they help us become better, and your employees are no different. And you need to allow them to have that a little bit.
100%. Well, I'll tell you, Christian, it's been really eye-opening learning what you do and how you do it and why you do it. If someone is interested in learning more and even coming to work on your team, what is the best way that they can reach out and connect with you?
Yeah. By the way, thank you, Mike, for having me. This is a great conversation. I really enjoy your show and everything that
You're
you
welcome.
do. The best way to get in contact with me is, if you are an insurance agent or you're interested in becoming an insurance agent, we have a online Facebook group for Medicare agents specifically, and it's grown pretty big. It's called 7-Figure Medicare Agent, where we teach, $1 million principles on how agents can grow their business to the $1 million mark and beyond in revenue. It's got about 10,000 agents in there right now. It's extremely organic. It's a very, very engaged, I would say, is the word, community. So that's a great place. Also on YouTube, at Christian Brindle YouTube channel, we put out weekly trainings and weekly videos on how you can grow your business. We just passed 7,000 subscribers. We're on the grind to 10,000. So we'd love it if you wanted to check us out there. You can also check us out on the Everything Senior Insurance website, eseniorinsurance.com, and you can kind of learn more about what we do from there and reach out from there if you wanted to get in contact.
Awesome. Well, Christian, thanks again for coming on. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today.
Thank you for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.